Hi, everyone. This is a panel at the Cannes Film Festival. I want to start out by asking each of you to give a 2-minute background information, and I'll start with you, Andrew, and work the way back.
Well, I'm Andrew Eborn, president of OctopusTV. As you know, my background is a lawyer, specialised in intellectual property, and represented lots of broadcasters, content owners, big studios, who got me more and more involved in the business as well as the legal side. So rather than just, which is the traditional American way, I know, but certainly not done in Britain, what used to happen is people just instruct people as lawyers. For me, they got me more and more involved in the business. And as the business evolved in the early 2000s, people obviously looked at the digital space. And what my clients were saying is that the problem with existing platforms is they're too clunky, they don't quite follow what we need. So here's our wish list for the perfect technology platform. And so what happened, I was presented with a whole load of clients and their wish list, which was brilliant. So the great way, and probably the only way to launch a technology platform. It's a no-brainer.
Okay, Harrison?
Thank you for that.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah,
it's a joy.
I'm Harrison Kordestani. I'm the president of Main Street Films. I started almost 20 years ago as an attorney as well.
We're all lawyers, aren't we?
Yeah, that's right. And
On this side of the table.
It's the lawyer couch.
exactly. Quickly moved into foreign sales. And
Foreign sales or foreign sales?
foreign sales,
I was gonna say.
not porn sales.
I would like you more, but
Yeah. And from there moved on to producing. And several years ago, I realized that the real need in the marketplace was for the films that are out there that weren't getting theatrical U.S. distribution to really get propelled into the foreign marketplace so that they would become financially viable for all territories. So that was the thrust of the company, which then went into production and acquisition and everything else. And we started last Cannes. We didn't have a film, and at this time, we're 12 films in. We just finished a TV show for Amazon. We're in production right now in New York on a project with James Franco and Amber Heard and several other people. So things are really moving lightning fast for the company.
for you, D. Matt Geller.
Sounds like a rap name.
Well,
That's my street credit. That's the street credit. I've been a development exec and in distribution for years, and went out on my own for a couple of years, and now work pretty closely with Black Hanger and Plantation Village, looking after creative. So really deep in terms of development and understanding that process from when you get a treatment to what it takes to physically put the film together. Looking after my process is maybe somewhat different in terms of I really back into it, first looking at, okay, so who is going to be the distributor, who's going to be the buyer? And if I can't list at least 4 buyers, it's going to be an incredible challenge to get it off the ground. And secondly, it's what are the economics behind the project? If, it could be the greatest script, but if the marketplace can't bear it, there's no sense of developing it.
Thank you. Tammy?
So I
Don't we just
am.
love her?
You do?
Absolutely.
Only reason we're here.
That's the only reason I'm here.
You haven't seen my rap number yet. We've got something going on with D. Matt and Andrew. So, so I am Tamara Bell from Koan. We are a film distribution and production company. We do worldwide and domestic release. And we originally started off in television, mostly in the documentary space, and then moved to family movies and some faith-based. And then just now we've got a nice variety, a lot of action, sci-fi, that sort of thing. We originally just did solely distribution, and we started realizing that we had more and more producers come to us with films that were just off. I mean, you've all seen those that
Films
they just
or film projects?
well both.
Both.
But generally at that point it was
Okay.
finished product.
Okay.
And we would say if only they hadn't put this actor in there because they'll never buy it in Asia, or if only they had done this or that. And so we had all these buyers telling us what they wanted, so we started doing production ourselves because we kind of knew it.
Isn't there a song that, if only
Is there?
a moment? Okay.
We haven't started.
lot of
We
money
haven't started the
royalties now.
singing
It's
section yet.
Okay,
But
yeah. Well,
go. No. I was just going to say we're starting a production in July. It's a sci-fi action kind of thing in Utah, as a matter of fact, and then we've got another one in Malaysia.
So this is news for the Cannes Film Festival.
Oh, is it? Breaking news.
Yeah, okay. John?
John Corser. I'm a line producer. I've worked around the world in many different places as a producer, in charge of the money that you guys eventually allocate to our projects. I've recently started developing my own projects and working with different people to get them financed. I sit on the Motion Picture Advisory Board in Utah to judge which films get approved for the incentive. And
How come yours never get approved?
yeah, right.
Yeah, that is good.
I have to excuse myself
Yeah.
on those ones. Basically, I also started a small film fund in Utah to promote films in that state. So
You also do Film Utah Magazine.
I also do a nonprofit that promotes Utah to the world.
And I miss saying, Film Utah is also a co-sponsor of these panels. I don't know if that's news to you.
News to me.
Get your checkbook
Okay,
out.
all
got
right.
my euros
So what we all are really talking about, and what we want to talk about, many clients become my clients because they come to me as how to develop their projects, and more importantly, in the development phase, what are the economics of dollars that you need to allocate towards the development phase? And we got around that issue because Rudy Langless, a producer that I'm working with, talked to a bunch of filmmakers in Chicago, and there was a question, how much do I need? And without hesitation, he said, you're going to need $25,000 to $50,000 to bring in the right team to develop it, because you're going to need casting, you're going to need a line producer, you're going to need to talk consulting with distribution, you're going to need all the casting director. You need to look at all of these aspects of a production. So with me, and then we can go to each other, it starts with the story. I am very story driven. The story has got to grab my heart, my senses, my emotions. It has to be marketable, and then I go into the developing by building the team. I've been very fortunate to work with a lot of great people in this business in all the areas that I just talked about, and I believe that a good story, with the right credible team, with the experience that these people have, it's more often they get the money for the development and also for the production. But to start out, this is film business.
Yes.
And to start out in this business, you're going to need development money of $25,000 to $50,000, or your film is not going to get out of what I call development hell. It may be slightly cheaper if you got a friend who's going to do it for free or stuff.
Friend is $25,000 cheap. What are you talking about? But a friend is gonna do it for free.
So with that statement, I want to start out with John. How and when do you get involved, and how do people find you, and where are you in the development phase?
Well, first got to talk about the 25 to 50, because I believe that number as well. And some producers don't see themselves spending the money, so it'll take them 10 to 15 years to do that development phase, and it's $2,500 a year. So it's still the $25,000 to $50,000 that they've put into it. It just was over a much longer time, rather than throwing it into 3, 4, 6 months, something like that, to do the development. For me, I get calls all the time to do budgets, and 90% of the time, the project is not ready for a budget to be done. The script isn't developed enough. There's not enough work on the story for it even to get to a distributor to be interested. They don't have really an idea. Oh, we can shoot it for $20 million, or we can shoot it for $5 million. And they tell me what they want the budget to be, and I'm like, that's the backwards way to go. We got to see what the project is, and then start working on the budget. And then the other thing that I really kind of harp on as my soapbox is there's a difference between value and cost. Right. I can tell you the cost. You guys have to tell me the value. So it's a different measurement of when you're going into doing that budget. We have to reevaluate what the costs are. Cast too high, location too far, need a bigger incentive, need to do some sort of other financing package. Those things I start to look at when I talk to the producers that ask me to do a budget.
Tammy, where do they bring your company, your services in the process? Is it a screenplay stage, a treatment stage, or what stage would a project where you would like a project to come to you, and why then?
Ideally, I would like them to come to me at the very beginning.
Oh, and that is where?
Screenplay or just idea even. Granted, that would be
I got a couple for you.
there would be a long line maybe of people with a million ideas. But I think just to save people time, I'm okay saying it's not going to work.
So I'm not going to be able to pitch you on my family vacation in Cancun.
No.
Okay.
Although you, Corky, I never know. But I would say I had a really nice. I'm not going to name the nationality. A non-English speaking nationality come on my stand just the other day. Had a completely foreign language film, a very kind of unknown story.
They were lost, weren't they?
They wanted a $45 million budget.
Right.
And no known actors or
There you
anything. And so that's the kind of person, just to be nice, I just said, you probably would be better off spending your time elsewhere. But there are other people.
How can you say that nice? I get a real job.
But there are other people who have solid projects that might be going down the wrong track. If you want Meryl Streep to star in your sci-fi channel feature, you might need just a little bit more direction.
But it's very basic stuff, though, isn't it? And the whole principle, and this is why Tammy and I spoke about this earlier, so many people miss the basics. And I think if you talk to more people at very early stages, they can tell you, look, this is pie in the sky. This is realistic. We can save an absolute fortune by surrounding yourself with experts who've been there, done that, know what works.
But before we do that, we want to give everyone DMAT. I love that. DMAT. Okay. I got. When or how do people approach you, and how do you evaluate from the development stage where you go from that point in time?
I get everything from treatment to more fleshed out synopsis to screenplays. And as I was saying, to me, the first, it's looking at the economics of it. What's the matrix? Who is going to distribute it? And really backing into it, budgets, are crucial because, if it is a $20 million film, but it's not going to do more than $5 million worldwide, that's a problem. Or if you have attached names who mean nothing foreign-wise, and, what is it, 70% of worldwide gross is international. So that's become an incredibly different business model. So it's really understanding all the elements. And one of the biggest things I've always said is, if you do have development dollars, and it is very difficult to find development dollars, but if you do have them, be smart about it. And if you are able to make even partial pay or play offers to actors to lock them in, do it. Make that 10% pay or play. So now you're anchoring your project around something other than just words on a page. Yeah. And then you can kind of start the process and talk to distributors, talk to foreign salespeople, start to get minimum guarantees, and really that's the way to finance it.
And Harrison, since you're basically a production and distribution company, think back when people were pitching you the development projects, if that ever was, because I want to know how they would approach someone like you in the development phase of a project, not the production phase.
Actually, there's so much to talk about in that. As a producer distributor with a foreign sales operation, I really know what we need. And we look at all the metrics of sales. We look at all the factors. We know what the film's value to us on the domestic side. We figure out, how much of the foreign side is actually viable. A lot of people throw numbers out, but the realistic thing is like in one market, you might only be able to hit about 30% of those numbers. Then the next market squeeze out a little bit more, and then, more over the next like 5 to 10 years. So we've got to think about all these different things. And then there's definitely two different lines of development for us. And one started because of the other. I think as a young company, wanting to kind of like make good with the agencies. And certainly, after years, I have a lot of relationships, but you got to show that you're spending money. And, that put us in a space where we were being reactive to the marketplace, having to wait for, the go-to companies to send us the package. But by the time it got to us, I guarantee there's been a ton of people who already passed on it, meaning the studios and then the top companies before us. So I have to be mindful. This is what I'm getting. And if I get it, I know that if I feel that there's something special about it, that, it's more challenging, but I really think that we can do something with it, both internationally and domestically. But that's why we want to be proactive. We don't want to wait around, for agency packages. So as of just the last couple months, we've started that development process. And you said, 25 to 50. You're absolutely right, somewhere in that range, because before we started hiring our own production team, every time we would start a project or we'd start take an idea into script stage or anything else, it would cost about that much. Pay that casting director, bring that production guy in to do a set of like schedules and budgets and everything. Then we said, why are we doing this? So we just brought everyone in. All those people are in house for us. So there's and now just like Tammy said, I'd like it to be as early as possible. Hopefully not an idea stage, because that's still a little esoteric, because you can actually take apart the script and say, okay, well, the third act doesn't work, or it was great, but it didn't start off great, or whatever it is. And then we have some go-to young writers and also some go-to really prestigious writers. It all depends on what we're looking for. If we want to attract a top actor, it depends on if it's an action or a drama or something like that. We're not going to go with a young actor a young writer who's not done anything. But, we have relationships with, some of the best people, and, paying them $100,000 for a polish or something so that their name's on it makes a big difference and makes that, top actors actually respond. So we have to take all this stuff in. But I think that, the hundreds of thousands of dollars we're spending on that team comes down to about 25 to 50,000 or something per project, because that's really what it is.
Andrew, do you come in the development phase, and if so, how? I mean, how would you provide help with your services, which, by the way, are fabulous?
You've got to say that because it's true.
I know, and he paid me to say that. How and when would you?
Well, I like, rather similar to what Tammy and other people were saying, to come in as early as possible. And I'll tell you why. It's two things. It's to do, first of all, with value as opposed to cost. And you're right, you have to spend time and energy, but there are ways that you can provide certain services at significantly less, but for a piece of the action, basically. And that's why we like to get in very, very early. But also, this is a relationship business. We all deal with people that we like to deal with. We all know people who can help get projects off the ground. So we have a strategic alliance, as you know, with Black Hanger Studios, who within the family can deal with everything, from the special effects, to the product placement, to the financing, to the studio facilities, to the fabulous technology, Octopus I've heard about, and working on that sort of basis. So it's as much, without being patronizing, which means talking down to people, without being patronizing about it's as much to do with the education, if you like, especially for people who are first-time filmmakers. Turning around and say, look, this is how the industry works. This is a reality check, but this is how we can help. For example, on the technology front, it's explaining what we're trying to do is flatten the learning curve. So many people in so many industries have jargon, which basically this clouds of cleverness, if you like. What we like to do is, if you want to switch on a light, as I said beforehand, you press a button and it works. What we do with Octopus is turn around and everything is picture-based. So even though if you want to upload something that's a little arrow, you press it, it goes up. Guess what? If you want to download it, you can do that. Everything works intuitively. I think that's the way that you make things work. So sophistication, basically simplicity is the new sophistication.
I am pitched projects all the time, and probably I'm pitched projects in the development phase because people know that I know really great people to provide services in this business. But I'm amazed, and again, that's relating to me. I'm amazed that so many horrible projects come to me at a time. People have to look at their projects and look. When I read a screenplay, and I like it, and I see it in my mind. I sometimes even cast it. And I have to do the marketable. Is this marketable? Can I sell it? Because I pitch to distributors, to line producers, to distribution, to you. I'm the pitchster. How can I make it something that has value? If I like it, I send it to people who I respect to tell me I'm full of junk and I don't know how you could have liked this, and the reality check sinks in and say maybe, or this is great, and by the way, we want to be part of it. So that's how I work.
Well, it's also quite dangerous though, Corky, in a way, and I presume you work on this basis, you don't send everything. What you do, you act as a filter. So you've got a person, you know what you do.
No, right.
Work as a
I
filter for
only
them.
send out ones that I like and that I've already evaluated, have some marketability that I think is good. And then I send it to usual suspects.
Yeah, and then they ask for the rest because they know they'll be good.
I always ask for the filmmaker to provide me coverage that they've gotten themselves from
Well, tell them what coverage is.
Well, somebody do a script analysis, to do a synopsis, consider, pass evaluation, and a 2 to 10 page, depending on
how
what
much
it is,
is that gonna
synopsis.
cost?
Well, if you do it online, which is what I tell them to do, just because it gets them out there, it's $60 to $100 per script. If you do
which is amazing.
Which you do more than one at a time, you could get a discount.
Do you want to?
So
do you
I
want to
don't wanna do
provide?
it.
Do you want to provide the name and the contact information for that service?
If they give me a kickback, no.
But for $600, if you need that
No
kickback,
I tell them screenplay readers is one, but there's a lot of them. Look online. There's a bunch of them that'll do that. That way, when I get the script, I already know that they've looked at it and it says pass, and they're still sending it to me. So there's something else going on here. So if they can at least look at some outside source that I'm not the first read of their script, because sometimes I am, and I don't have the time for that.
Do you have any comment?
I do. I think my favorite kind of project is one where someone has spoken to me early on, kind of piqued my interest, and then gone off and done their homework. So they've gone off and
homework.
So they've gotten a script, and I don't necessarily want to read every script of every project that someone presents to me, but I'd read an 8-page synopsis or something like that. That would give me an idea of the feel. But when someone comes to me and says, "This is my genre, this is what a basic storyline," I've got so-and-so attached and really attached, writer, director, actor, whatever.
Not letter of intent, not I'd like to do
my
it.
wish list or
my-
whatever. Or my gardener, or my
Knows
cousin's
the
a gardener
person.
for so-and-so.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I've got this person attached. I've got 80% of the financing, and I've got some film incentive. I say, you have my attention. Please sit down. Let's talk. Because that's someone who's actually done the work.
Are you genre sensitive in your company?
This is going to sound really bad, so just know that that's not who I am. I am not genre sensitive. I'm money sensitive. Yeah. So what I think is going to make our company money, personally, there are some films that I would, just my own personal choice, but we don't distribute them because they're just not going to make us
why
money.
does that make you sound bad? Because that's the reality. As you turn around, this is a business. So we
Right.
shouldn't be ashamed of saying it's about the money.
Right.
You know, and that's the reality. And we know what works. We know what different ingredients. And the reality, going back to what Corky was saying, is you need all of those ingredients to make the recipe work.
Right.
If you're going to ask for somebody else's money, you better be aware of how it
Absolutely. And it's not embarrassing.
Yes.
Matt, a project comes to you and you're talking about real attachments, not my aunt is the maid for, but
Is she? I didn't know. I saw that movie.
That would be a great movie. Let's all do it. My aunt is a maid.
Starring Corky.
I will buy that film.
I've done it. We're doing the distribution. We're sorted.
How do you get the talent? I mean, how do you structure that?
I think we talked about a lot of it is, majority of it is relationships, and it's really. I grew up in the business from the mailroom on up. So it is having those agency relationships, and but it's more so than a relationship. It's having that trust that when you call that agent and you say, "Hey, look, I have this screenplay. This is what it is. This is the hook. I want your client to read it." I'll get a response because there's a track record, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I mean, isn't it more so, in my mind, it's not like I'm degrading the agency business, but in a sense, especially from our production point of view, they're in a place of not promoting their clients. They're more of a place of not losing their clients. How do they lose their clients? By putting them in a movie that doesn't end up paying them and falls apart. That means you didn't do your homework, so it's all comes back on the trust. If we do a movie, they're like, everyone got paid, great. Do it again, everyone's got paid, great. You do it again, and then after the third, fourth time, they don't even ask. Right. They don't ask for the deposits. They don't ask for anything. They're just like, they know what's going to happen. So
you know the line. As soon as you sign a client, the day you sign a client is the day you start losing them.
Right.
So I mean, that's just how we would want it. So it really does go back to that trust factor. That when you're sending something, that it really has that meat and potatoes, but it's. You really have the sales strategy worked out. You're not wasting people's time.
And in my situation, I have to know great casting directors who I happen to work with, two of the best. I mean, they're the ones that tell me, forget about it, or this is something that I want. But one thing I have to say, because it bothered me for years and still bothers me, under agency principle law in the United States, an agent must, if it's a legal obligation, to communicate an offer to the principal. Legally, they have an obligation.
Never do it.
You just hit on something interesting that. And I get
they
this
can
all
turn
the
it down, but they have to tell them about it.
I get this quite often where I'll get a call from a colleague or et cetera, and they'll say, here's the script. I really want this person. Okay, great. And what are you prepared to offer? Well, I have 20 grand. You're not going to get an actor worth, a foreign sales value for that kind of money unless it's your best friend who's doing you a favor.
But Matt.
So it's being cognizant of that.
But under United States law, that agent has a legal obligation to communicate the $20,000.
But here's the thing. But if you're going to do it,
but they don't, and they
don't do it.
They can do that,
right.
They can do it. So I have a client that I won't name who's an actor, a fairly successful
I know the client.
talent.
it's Andrew.
It is me. You can talk about that if it's the story I know. Don't tell them about the donkey.
And I had a client that called his agent and made an offer.
Yes.
And the agent never got back or said, no, I'm not going to make it. It wasn't a $20,000, but it was a nice amount of change. And the agent said, he's not doing it. We cast the movie with another talent. My client found out about, why didn't you bring it to me? And I told him, I made an offer. My client made an offer to your agent. You never heard about it? No. He fired his agent. More talent, which is the most insecure people in the business, more talent has to realize that they are the principal. The agent is the agent. The agent works for and at the bequest of the principal. Absolutely. So what you said is true. You're not going to go for $20,000. But if you did, under law, that agent would have to communicate it. But say, don't take it.
But also, panel about the agency business. I think we could talk about 2 hours about how the agents are, that basically have the control in the business.
But just to finish on that point, because it's really interesting, because even if you offer $1, which is your legal point, you have an obligation to communicate it to your client. What's interesting, because lots of actors out there want to hear about it, which is your point, and that particular project which we were discussing earlier, he wanted to be involved. And it was an unusual project. It was way below his pay grade, but he still was desperate to be involved. What would be helpful, Corky, as well, for people watching, the zillions watching live around the world to Corky's Corner? Zillions. It's going to be good. The penalties that agents will suffer if they don't communicate that to their clients.
Well, from a legal standpoint, they could be sued.
you
And
go.
they could be sued for treble damages, but they won't because
Do you know any good lawyers in America?
There is Corky Kessler.
You don't want everybody out there is making ridiculously low
Right,
offers.
right,
I mean,
right.
you don't want
Yeah,
everybody
right,
to
right.
say, okay,
So-
here's $5.
Right.
And fill up the system with a bunch of
Exactly.
bogus offers either. So we don't want to encourage people just to go out and say, hey, offer this minimum to your actors.
The agency system actually, if you understand the system in general, the agency system works. They are a great filter.
That's the point.
You just have to know how to navigate it to get the right answer.
But then call it something other than an agent.
This is a pet peeve you have. We have to move on.
Okay.
that was very good.
Hey, and here's a new moderator. And welcome. Thank you. That's been,
I think you guys need to switch seats here.
Okay. So
it was a Captain Phillips moment, wasn't it? You're in there with some Army pirates. It's got to be good.
So in the climate of so many people, and I know a couple of particular projects that have been in development hell for 2.5 years, with money
Yes.
to spend
Yes.
in the development project and a good project that everyone on this panel likes.
Yes.
How long should the process be?
Oh, as short as possible, but as long as necessary is the honest answer.
Yeah, I mean, how?
Development hell, 2 years is not that much hell.
No.
I mean, essentially, in this market, trying to get something put together, just in the amount of time people have to meet with you, it takes a while.
Yeah.
So, obviously, if you have something exceptional and you can package it really quickly, that's better for you. But it's, 18 months. I can imagine easy
realistic period.
putting something together.
I think people like many in our panel are in a really unique position of being able to really test out the market. When we're in places like Cannes, when you meet the buyers, they say, okay, well, this doesn't work anymore in my territory, this does. And when you know that from every territory, then you really get a feel, okay, I shouldn't make that big horror film. I'll make a family film,
But it's going-
I'll make a faith-based film.
Yeah,
And
but you're
in-
absolutely right on that, though. And it's going back to what we said beforehand, is that the more we can disseminate that information to say, look, this is what's hot at the moment. I mean, in television, people have particular sessions with commissioning editors who turn around and say, we're looking for a quiz show to fill this particular time slot. This is genres which are working at the moment. This is what sells internationally. The more we can do that in the film business, the more helpful that would be for people.
I just got this call right before I got to Cannes. I'm sorry.
Show off.
Oh, wait, before you do that, I got the 5-minute horrible hand from the producer.
You should speak. I have nothing useful
We're
to
having
say.
far too and Corky, I think it was a 2 minutes. It wasn't 2 minutes. It was,
I got this phone call, and decent enough of a screenplay, actor attached, is just getting some traction domestically in the States. And I had to be very, very straightforward with this person and say, look, one core thing you have to remember, that the foreign business is probably good 2 years back from where we are in the States.
Yeah.
So this actor could be in the zeitgeist in America, but they have not reached that level internationally. So that's a big thing to remember.
But you guys are also looking at 2-4 years out, because it's going to be 6 months of development, say 30, 50 days shooting, another 12 weeks of post, then, getting it out there. It's in the future that these films are going to be released. So if you're thinking about something that's hot right now, it's not hot right now. It's hot in that future date.
Yeah, but you need the foreign MGs now to go into production and to make that film. And if you start to populate your project with talent that is just getting something going now, you're in the client's side.
Is that true, Harrison?
Well, I totally agree. I mean, you have to balance out those thoughts. For example, we did this great film at the end of the year. Really great film with Sam Jackson, Haley Steinfeld, Jessica Alba. But it was really the younger people. It was about a young girls' school putting up like these people that no one knows. I've never heard of, but they're all from the Disney school. They're all got their own Disney shows, like Dove Cameron, who just stole the show. I mean, I've never heard of Dove Cameron. She's going to be a superstar.
She is. Could be
And so that's just an example. It was like, all these people that we cast that, there are times not even close, but we had to balance them along with other people that, let's say, the foreign buyers know, you know, and people actually care about, like Sam Jackson, which is like
It's
the
working
other
backwards. It's working backwards from the clients and the foreign clients who say that.
So, and the closing thoughts, because we got the 1 minute and we're done. And this panel is probably what every festival needs that has panels. People who really talk about how to move your projects forward. Again, to close out, I want to thank Film Utah for co-sponsoring this panel. I want to thank Octopus. I want to thank Black Hanger Studios. I want to thank Plantation Village Studios, and I believe that we should take this panel on the road,
Hosted by Corky.
and charge $1 for everyone that wants to see it.
Of the zillions that are watching.
All right.
Near you.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Corky.
Thank you, Hal.
Thank you, Corky.
Corky, you're a star. What a joy. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's
Hey,
a
that
wrap
was
on
very
packaging.
gallant of you. Thank you.